Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, May 11th, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest with the coronavirus and baseball's plans for its draft. I'm going to recap the UFC 249 from the weekend, as well as the KBO games, the Disney Sing-Along Volume 2, American Idol, Last Dance, my 2014 NFL ReDraft, and my top 10 songs of the calendar year 2016. All right, we'll start with coronavirus. It was announced over the weekend that Major League Baseball is cutting the draft to 5 rounds. So it normally was 40 rounds. That is a 35-round drop-off. A lot of these high school and college kids really, especially the college kids that are juniors and seniors, this hurts them the most, especially the seniors. But every team has obviously can sign undrafted free agents, and they can get up to a $20,000 bonus. Obviously, you'll get more if you are drafted. So, drafts cut to 5 rounds. And the other news in baseball that came out today is that owners have approved the proposal for the 2020 season to present to Players Union on Tuesday. So that is something that we'll definitely cover on the podcast later in the week, probably tomorrow and Wednesday. So that is obviously huge. And another report that came out was that there could be a DH in the National League for the year, and the league is expected to propose a universal DH for the season as part of their plan for the shortened season. And the other one that came out is that the MLBPA is preparing for a war, and players are, they put in quotes here, hopping mad, and they're ready to fight if owners attempt to reduce their salaries more. And that comes from NBC Sports, but I don't know how true that is. We'll see if they'll still get their full salaries. Maybe, maybe not. And big hockey news and coronavirus related is that the AHL cancels the rest of their season. That was inevitable. And that should have been the case 2 months ago when they canceled the OHL and the KHL and the WHL and all that. But they finally made the announcement today that the AHL is canceling the rest of their season. And now we'll find out if the NHL will actually move the draft up to June or push it back to late August or September like the NBA is doing. They should do what the NBA is doing. I do think that's the course they're going to end up going. I think it'd be a mistake to do the draft before the playoffs because it does screw up some draft positioning. Although they normally do it combined of regular season and postseason. The NBA just does it based on the regular season. So, we'll see what they end up doing and see if they do sort of copy the NBA and just do it based on the regular season. But there is the lottery, so I wonder if they'll still have a lottery or not. And despite UFC 49 still happening, Ronaldo Souza tested positive for COVID-19, so his match was obviously canceled, and they still continued with the rest of the event, and it was a absolute smashing success. And now I'm going to talk about that event and the results out of the main card. In the heavyweight, Greg Hardy defeated Yorgan De Castro, unanimous decision. It was 30-27, 30-27, and 30-27. In the catchweight, Calvin Kattar defeated Jeremy Stevens via TKO, elbows and punches. In another heavyweight, Francis Ngannou defeated Jairzinho Rozenstruik in knockout with punches. In the bantamweight, Henry Cejudo defeated Dominic Cruz via TKO, knees and punches. And in the lightweight, the big one, it was an upset. Justin Gaethje defeated Tony Ferguson via TKO. So, and that one took 5 rounds in 3 minutes and 39 seconds. Meanwhile, Greg Hardy's win was 3 rounds and 5 minutes. Calvin Kattar's win was 2 rounds and 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Ngannou's win was 1 round, 20 seconds, so that was quick. And Sajito's win was 2 rounds, 4 minutes, and 58 seconds. And next weekend, or really, it's really May 13th. So on Wednesday, it is Smith versus Teixeira at the Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. Obviously, no fans. And then Overeem versus Harris will take place on Saturday, May 16th from Jacksonville without fans, obviously. And we'll recap all the fights and whatnot on the show. Now I'm going to recap the KBO games from the weekend. So that would be Friday and Saturday nights. So without further ado, here we go. It was Saturday for them, but Friday night here on the East Coast. Samsung over Kia 14-2. Kiwon over Hanwha 5-3. And the LGNC, SK Latte, and KT Doosan games were all postponed due to weather. And on Sunday for them and then Saturday night here, Kia over Samsung 12-3, LG over NC 10-8, Latte over SK 4-0, Doosan over KT 13-12, and Kawum over Hanwha 6-3. So tomorrow for them, and it's really tomorrow for us as well, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The matches are as followed for the KBO. You have KT at NC, with KT being a plus 112 favorite. NC Dinos, plus 112 underdog, and the Dinos are minus 141 favorites. Over-under is 8. If I had to make a pick for this one, I'm going to say the over. Although KT comes into this game at 1-4, and NC comes in this game at 4-1. So I think that's a little fishy on the numbers. I think KT should be a bigger dog, but I would bet the over here. Doosan and Latte. Doosan, the Bears are minus 177 road favorites. Latte is plus 138 home underdogs. I am going to take the plus 138 right now. I know Doosan is 3-2, but Latte is 5-0. How is a 5-0 team a home underdog? Give me that plus 138. The Samsung Lions and the Kawum Heroes. Samsung comes into this game at 2-4. Kawum comes in at 5-1. Kawum's a huge favorite, and deservingly so. The over-under is 8.5. Honestly, I would take Kawum on the run line, minus 1.5 at plus 107. I think that is a little ballsy, but I'll go for it. Then you have the Kia Tigers at the Hanwha Eagles. Kia comes in this game 2-4. Hanwha comes in at 2-4 as well. Kia's a big favorite. Both these teams are the same record. I would take a shot at the home underdog at plus 123 to the same record as of right now. And then the last one, SK at LG. SK's record's 1-4, and the LG Twins' record is 2-3. And LG is a plus 107 home underdog. SK is a minus 136 favorite. I'm going to take LG. So my picks for tonight, KTNC over 8. The Latte Giants plus 138. Kawum minus 1.5 on the run line at plus 107. The Hanwha Eagles to win straight up at plus 123. And the LG Twins to win straight up at plus 107. And tomorrow, I'm going to do my first ever power rankings for the KBO because it's going to be a week tonight since they started their season. Now I'm going to recap last night's Disney Sing-Along Volume 2. Fun show last night. Ryan Seacrest hosted again. The open was The Muppets featuring Seth Rogen and obviously Kermit and Miss Piggy. So that was pretty neat to see. They did a little opening song. Titus Burgess did a little warm-up to Bippity Boppity Boo from Cinderella. Some of the Lion King Broadway and movie casts, including Seth Rogen and Donald Glover, performed Hakuna Matata, which I think was an appropriate choice. Rebel performed Poor Unfortunate Souls from The Little Mermaid. Disney on Broadway members from all over the world and all different shows performed You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan. The Dancing with the Stars cast, led by Keke Palmer, performed Zero to Hero. And obviously Palmer sang, and then the Dancing with the Stars people danced. Idina Menzel and Ben Platt performed A Whole New World. Halsey performed Part of Your World. Katy Perry performed Baby Mine. Josh Gad performed When I'm Older. Anika Noni Rose and Callie and Chloe performed I'm Almost There. John Legend and Jennifer Hudson performed Beauty and the Beast. Shakira performed Try Everything. Miguel and Christina Aguilera performed Remember Me. Derek and Julianne Hough featuring Derek's girlfriend, did a medley from Mary Poppins of Step in Time and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And Sabrina Carpenter closed it out performing Your Mom and Mine. So it was a very cute sing-along too. And I'm sure there'll be a third sing-along. Maybe by Father's Day. I could totally see that because they did one in the middle of April. They did one on Mother's Day. So it'd be only fitting if they did one on Father's Day, which is June, I want to say it's the 14th, but I'm not 100% positive. Maybe it is the 21st, but it's going to be one of those 2 days where I'm predicting that they'll do the next Disney sing-along. Now I'm going to recap last night's episode of American Idol. The top 7 were revealed, and what we found out last night is that next week's the finale. That's crazy. I think because of the pandemic, they had to shorten it. Normally, the Idol finale is at the end of May, but obviously, it's going to be May 17th. And like I said, it's because of the pandemic, they had to shorten it. And then don't forget those 2 weeks in between the top 20 and then the Hawaii episode. They did the top 20 getting to know you little show. This Is Me is what it was called. So the top 7: Arthur Gunn, Just Sam, Johnny West, Louis Knight, Julia Gargano, Francisco Martin, and Dylan James. So I went 4 for 7. So the contestants that went home were Jovan Webb, who I thought was going home, Grace Lear, who I thought got snubbed, Sophia James Wackerman, it was probably the best singer to go home last night, and Michaela Phillips, who the judges saved, so it made sense that she went home. So Arthur Gunn opened up the show. He performed Kiss the Girl from A Little Mermaid. Good performance. Just Sam with the absolute best performance of the night. Yet again, A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes from Cinderella. She sang that beautifully, and she really brought it. Johnny West went third. He performed Almost There from Princess and the Frog. I think he did a great job. Louis Knight went next. He performed Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King. The Lion King version. It wasn't Elton John's version. It was the actual Lion King version because it was a little bit more upbeat. And like the way he was singing it made it sound like he was singing the version from the movie, not Sir Elton John's version. Julia Gargano went 5th. She performed Beauty and the Beast. I thought that she could have done better with that, to be quite honest. Francisco Martin went 6th. He performed You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan. I think he did a nice job. And Dylan James closed it out performing Our Town from Cars. I think he was okay. In between the Mother's Day tribute songs and Disney, the American Idol winner from last year, Lane Hardy, performed Life is a Highway from Cars. And then the top 7 for Mother's Day songs. Arthur Gunn performed Hey Ma by Bon Iver. I think he did that very well. Just Sam performed I Turn to You by Christina Aguilera. Yet again, the best performance of that segment for Just Sam. Johnny West performed his little original version of Amazing Grace. I think he was outstanding. Louis Knight performed You've Got a Friend by Carole King and James Taylor. Julia Gargano performed Sweetest Devotion by Adele. I think she was better round 2 than the Disney round. Francisco Martin performed River by Leon Bridges. He, again, was better in the Mother's Day round than in the Disney round. And I felt Dylan James with Hang On by Amos Lee was better in the Mother's Day round than the Disney round. So next week's the finale. They didn't necessarily say the number of contestants that will advance. I wonder if they're going to do like a top 2 or they just have those 7 come back for the finale and sing just for fun. And then they announce the winner at the end. So I'm going to do my predictions on Friday to reveal my pick to win American Idol 2020. So it should be a interesting finale on Sunday night. Now I want to recap last night's episode of The Last Dance. It was really, really good. In the episodes, they covered Michael Jordan going to play baseball for 18 months and how there was a conspiracy theory that Stern suspended him for 18 months because of his gambling addiction, which I believe is bogus. I just think that he wanted to take a break from the game to go play baseball, and then he came back. And then they showed in his first game back with the Bulls when he wore 45 very briefly, and where he put up 28 points. And then they showed his famous double nickel game at Madison Square Garden. And then they showed them losing to the Orlando Magic in 6 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals. And that was obviously a pretty big upset because Orlando beat Jordan. And Jordan just looked very fatigued in that series. And then they come back the next year and have the historic season in which they go 72-10. And then they got by the Seattle Supersonics in 6 games. They're on their way to a sweep, and then the Supersonics won the next 2 games to make it somewhat interesting. Obviously, George Karl, the head coach of that team, and Gary Payton was on that team. And then they wound up beating the Sonics in 6 games. And then they also showed the 98 playoffs where the New Jersey Nets gave them a battle in the first round. Well, not really a battle, but a battle in game 1. And the Bulls won by 3, and they wound up sweeping New Jersey in the first round in 3 games. And then I believe they beat the Knicks in round 2, although the Knicks picked them off in 1 game. So they won the series against the Knicks in 5 games. And then the last 2 episodes, obviously, they're going to cover that Indiana series where they they won in 7. They almost lost an Indiana series to Reggie Miller and the Pacers. And then Jordan's last NBA Finals will obviously be covered in the last 2 sets of the show as well. And we'll preview more of the last 2 episodes of The Last Dance on Friday's podcast. Now I'm going to do my 2014 NFL redraft. This was fun. This was a loaded draft. Loaded. A lot of big names. So, I actually did one on the podcast, I believe, 2 years ago, and it looked entirely different than it does now. Because there are some players that are better than they were then, or conversely, players that fell off the face of the earth a little bit and they're free agents. So without further ado, here we go, 2014 NFL redraft. Number 1, Houston Texans go with Aaron Donald. He is the best player from this draft. They did not have a good quarterback at the time, but here I have the Texans in this redraft going best player available, and that is Aaron Donald. The Rams at number 2 go with Zach Martin, the talented guard from the Dallas Cowboys, who has been a staple for their offensive line over the past 5 years. The Jaguars at number 3 go with Jimmy Garoppolo. I believe I had Garoppolo 1 in my redraft a couple years ago, but that was when he was coming off that great run with the Niners before he tore his ACL. So, Garoppolo goes 3 to Jacksonville. Boy, that franchise would have, let's say Garoppolo was perceived as highly back then, and they take him here, and that franchise would be a lot different right now, the Jags. Instead, right now they are obviously rebuilding. The Bills at number 4 go with Khalil Mack. Second best defensive player from this draft. Great edge rusher. Started with the Raiders and now is on the Chicago Bears. The Raiders at 5 go with Mike Evans. With Khalil Mack off the board, they go with the best wide receiver from this class in Mike Evans. He really has emerged as that, and I think you'll see it going forward because he's going to benefit from Tom Brady being his quarterback instead of turnover-prone Jameis Winston. And by the way, the first 5 picks in the actual draft that took place in 2014, the Texans took their Davion Clowney first. The Rams took Greg Robinson second, bust. Jags took Blake Bortles third, bust. Bills took Sammy Watkins fourth, not a disaster. And the Raiders at 5, obviously, like I said, took Khalil Mack. The Falcons at number 6 in the redraft go with Trey Turner, the talented offensive guard. Was with the Panthers, now is on the Chargers. I think he's a little overrated in terms of media and his perception around the league, because his Pro Football Focus grades are not what you would expect. So I think he's a little bit overrated, although I still think he's a solid guard. And instead they went with Jake Matthews, who really has only had one great season in the NFL thus far. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 7 go with Taylor Lewan. With Mike Evans off the board, they go with protection here with Taylor Lewan, who is a solid offensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans today. Number 8, the Cleveland Browns go with Dee Ford. Dee Ford, obviously, talented pass rusher. Obviously, people are going to remember him for jumping off sides in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots back in the 2018 season. Then he was traded to the Niners, helped them go to the Super Bowl, and now is on the Niners and got his money. And he certainly would have helped Cleveland. Instead, they go with Justin Gilbert. Yikes. 9, the Minnesota Vikings go with Odell Beckham Jr. Odell was obviously higher in this redraft 2 years ago, but now his perception's a little different. Coming off a rough year in Cleveland. Many people are pointing the finger at him for the regression of Baker Mayfield. I don't think that's true. I just felt that Baker Mayfield had a bad offensive line, and that was obviously Odell and Eli Manning's issue in New York, although obviously Odell made it very clear that he was blaming the quarterback. But how does he look now? And yet again, it's proof that you need a good offensive line to succeed in the NFL, because Baker Mayfield had a complete drop-off from year 1 to year 2 because their offensive line had gotten worse after the trading of Kevin Zeitler in the Odell deal, by the way. It was Zeitler and a couple prospects and picks, obviously Jabril Peppers, another first-round pick, and the third-round pick going to New York for Olivier Vernon and Odell Beckham Jr. So, Odell's perceived a little bit differently now because the Browns underachieved last year. and people look at him as a losing player. I think this is the biggest year of Odell's career, and I think he's going to get blamed, unfortunately, if the Browns don't improve from a disastrous season a year ago. And if he was on the Vikings, there probably would have been more drama there. But this redraft is all about talent, and he's the 9th best player in this draft, in my opinion, as of right now. And instead, the Vikings went with Anthony Barr. The Lions at number 10 go with Joel Bitonio, very good offensive lineman from the Cleveland Browns. Probably their best offensive lineman. He certainly would have helped Matthew Stafford. Instead, they go with Eric Ebron. Titans at 11 go with Anthony Barr. With Taylor Lewan off the board, they go with the talented linebacker and Anthony Barr. He was somebody that nearly left the Vikings in free agency and went to almost, literally had an agreement with the Jets, backed out of it, and wound up going back to Minnesota. I think he did that because I think he gave it a second thought, and he realized that the Vikings were closer to contention than the Jets and still are. So that looks like a good decision for Anthony Barr. And he would have been a nice guy to have on Tennessee in their pass rush. And instead, they went with Taylor Lewan, who I had going earlier. The New York Football Giants at 12 go with Davante Adams. With Beckham off the board, they go with Davante Adams. Their franchise outlook would have been a little bit different if they had Davante Adams instead of Odell. I know Eli Manning had a couple good years with Odell. Maybe he would have had a few good years with Davante Adams and then still would have had the dramatic drop-off. But the difference is that I think Davante Adams, had they chose him here, would still be a member of the New York Football Giants. And let's face it, they traded Odell Beckham Jr. away because he's a lunatic. Davante Adams is not a lunatic. So, had they taken Davante Adams, he'd still be wearing blue and not in another uniform like Odell is. So instead they go with Odell, and then they end up going Davante Adams in this redraft. The Rams at 13 go with DeMarcus Lawrence. So with Aaron Donald off the board, obviously, they go with the talented Cowboys pass rusher with Lawrence. Lawrence is somebody that I don't think gets the credit he deserves. He's obviously the Cowboys' best defensive lineman. And he is somebody that has been to a couple Pro Bowls, if I'm not mistaken. And he certainly would have helped the Rams. 14, the Chicago Bears go with Shaq Barrett, someone who's coming off a breakout year in Tampa. I think this year's a big year for him in terms of whether that was a fluke or not. He's on the franchise tag. Instead, the Bears go with Kyle Fuller. The Steelers at 15 go with C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley was a great player for the Ravens. Then he got paid by the Jets. Gets hurt game 1 of the season. So the Jets have to rely on him to stay healthy the whole year. Unlike last year. Very good player, though. And instead, they went with Ryan Shazier, which is unfortunate, obviously, because he's no longer playing. The Cowboys at 16 go with Kyle Fuller. With Zach Martin off the board, they go with a talented defensive back in Fuller, Pro Bowler. The Bears love him. They paid him. The Ravens at 17 go with Clinton Dix. With C.J. Mosley off the board, they go with the talented safety with Clinton Dix, who's now a member of the Dallas Cowboys. He was on the Bears last year, and now he is on Dallas. He certainly will help them in the secondary. The Jets at 18 go with Allen Robinson, a very, very talented wide receiver that's just been stuck with bad quarterback play his whole life. He obviously would have been stuck with bad quarterback play with the Jets. But if he was on the Jets right now, he'd be Sam Darnold's number 1 target. And maybe Sam Darnold would be in a better place right now if he had Allen Robinson. And instead, the Jets took Calvin Pryor, who was a bust. The Dolphins at 19 go with Jake Matthews to shore up their offensive line. Solid player, but not what the Falcons really expected him to be. And instead, the Dolphins went with Jawan James, who's now on the Broncos. The Saints at number 20 go with Jimmy Ward, a very talented safety for the Niners, helped them go to the Super Bowl last year. I think he's a little underrated. And instead, the Saints went with Brandon Cooks, which wasn't a bad pick. The Packers at 21 go with Jarvis Landry with Clayton Dix and Devontae Adams off the board. They go with Jarvis Landry here, who would have been a solid weapon for Aaron Rodgers, obviously not as good as Devontae Adams. The Browns at 22 go with Derek Carr. They probably would have had some good years with Derek Carr, with the right talent around him. Obviously better than who they took, Johnny Manziel. The Chiefs at 23 go with Brandon Cooks. So they give, at the time was Alex Smith, another weapon here. And instead they went with Dee Ford, who went earlier in this redraft. The Bengals at 24, Sammy Watkins, a very, very solid wide receiver who was perceived as a bust early on. I don't look at him as a bust anymore. He just had some injury issues, and he found the home with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. He certainly would have helped Andy Dalton in the Bengals at the time. And instead, the Bengals went with Darqueze Dennard. The Chargers at 25 go with Charles Leno Jr., a very good offensive lineman for the Chicago Bears. He certainly would have helped protect Phillip Rivers these last few years. And maybe Rivers would have had more success. And instead, they go with Jason Verrett, which wasn't a bad pick. Number 26, the Eagles go with James White. Yes, James White, a very talented running back for the New England Patriots. Catches passes out of the backfield. That is somebody that the Eagles would have loved to have in their offense with Carson Wentz. But at the time, their quarterback was Nick Foles. So I think he would have had success with Foles there. And instead, Philly goes with Marcus Smith. The Cardinals at 27th go with Eric Ebron. So they got a tight end here. He certainly would have helped Carson Palmer at the time in that offense. And instead, Arizona goes with Deion Buchanan. The Panthers at 28th go with Jadeveon Clowney. It's amazing. Clowney falls from 1 to 28. Part of this reason why he dropped is because he's currently a free agent. He's somebody that's been injury prone a lot throughout his career. He's only had a few good years, although he was a Pro Bowler, obviously. Now the question is, where does he sign? I think a lot of different teams could use him, especially some of the rebuilding teams, just to have some stability. The Jets, the Giants. I don't think Buffalo would go there. Buffalo's not rebuilding. They're kind of a win-now team. I'm thinking of teams with young quarterbacks. Arizona, I think, would be fine. They would be loaded there. If they had him with Chandler Jones, yikes. That'd be a yikes for Russell Wilson and Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo. But yeah, there's a lot of places where he could fit. And instead, the Panthers went with Kelvin Benjamin. The Patriots at 29 go with Devontae Freeman, someone that's a free agent right now. He would have helped Tom Brady in that offense. And instead, they went with Dominique Easley. The 49ers at 30 go with Jason Verrett, someone who's currently on their team right now in their secondary. Unfortunate with him that he got injured last year, so he missed their Super Bowl run. Instead, the Niners went with Jimmy Ward, who I had going earlier in the redraft. 31, the Denver Broncos, Weston Richburg. Richburg is another player that's currently on the 49ers, started his career with the Giants, and then the Giants let him walk in free agency as the Niners overpaid him a little bit. He's helped them when he's been healthy, and he certainly would have helped Peyton Manning in his twilight years with Denver. And instead, Denver went with Bradley Roby. And last but not least, the Minnesota Vikings go with Jawan James. In this spot, they actually took Teddy Bridgewater. I debated whether I'd go Bridgewater or offensive line. But the Vikings were a team in the middle of last decade that didn't have the biggest flashy name quarterbacks pre-Kirk Cousins. And obviously, while Bridgewater was injured as well, they got away with it because of the talent on the roster. Jawan James certainly would have helped protect whomever was quarterbacking them. He'd certainly help Kirk Cousins right now as well. So that was a fun redraft to do. And now I'm going to do my 2016 top 10 songs. I have an honorable mention, which is Cheap Thrills by Sia and Chris Paul. Fun song. Maddie Ziegler of Dance Moms is in the music video. It's very catchy, but it's a song that people can get sick of just from an overhearance of it. It was released February 11th of 2016. A very dancey song, 3 minutes 44 seconds long. Number 10 on the list. Now we're actually on the list. Don't Let Me Down. That's the Chainsmokers. Solid song. This was, I think, their sort of coming out party song. I know a lot of people point to Closer for that. This song came out February 5th, 2016. It's from the EP Collage. Recorded in 2015, but came out in 2016. 3.5 minutes long. Number 9, Dangerous Woman. Ariana Grande off the album Dangerous Woman. March 11th, 2016. Almost a 4-minute song. Very posy and a cute little ballad that she did. And it's very retro and sweet. Number 8, Can't Stop the Feeling, Justin Timberlake. Obviously from the Trolls soundtrack from Disney. 4-minute song, came out May 6th of 2016. Number 7, Just Like Fire, Pink. Very, very solid song. 3.5 minutes long, came out April 15th of 2016 off the album Alice Through the Looking Glass. And it's from a original motion picture soundtrack as well. Disney soundtrack, obviously. And this was a radio song for a while as well. Number 6, This Is What You Came For, Calvin Harris featuring Rihanna. A very upbeat dance kind of song. April 29, 2016 it came out. 3 minutes and 40 seconds song. Calvin Harris, one of the best DJs out there. Doing an awesome job with everything he does. And he always calibrates very well with some of the best singers out there. 5th place, One Dance, Drake. Came out April 5th, 2015 off the album Views featuring Wizkid and Kyla. A 2-minute, 54-second long song. A very dancehall pop song. 4th place, Work, Rihanna. From the album Anti featuring Drake. Recorded in 2015 in December, but it was released 2016 in January. 3 minutes and 39 seconds long. Very reggae pop and dancehall song. Work, 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 work. It kind of did get overplayed a little bit, but it's still a fun song. 3rd place, Perfect Illusion, Lady Gaga. Came out September 9th of 2016 off the album Joanne. 3-minute song. Very poppy, upbeat song. Great music video as well. 2nd place, Closer by the Chainsmokers. This song was also on the 2017 list because it was very big that year as well, but it came out in 2016. So that's why this song is on the list yet again. But fun song. I think it is the best song by the Chainsmokers. Came out July 29th of 2016 off the EP Collage, 4 minutes. And the number 1 song of 2016, in my opinion, Lady Gaga, Million Reasons. Came out November 8th, 2016. 3 minutes and 25 seconds long. It has a very country vibe to it, and that's unlike Lady Gaga, but she really excels with her ballads, and this was one of her best ballads she's ever done. And she obviously did a phenomenal performance of this in her mashup in the Super Bowl halftime show in 2017, which was obviously Super Bowl 51, where the 28-3 game. And this is obviously off her album Joanne as well. So that's it for today's show. I'll be back tomorrow with the latest coronavirus news and any other news related to sports. Maybe not coronavirus news for once. Something I forgot to mention at the top is that little Richard passed away at the age of 87. Not coronavirus related. So rest in peace, little Richard. Any coronavirus news or any other random sports related news I'll have for you on tomorrow's show. 2014 MLB redraft tomorrow, as well as my 2016 top 10 movies. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.